Hey, it's Lowery Smith of the CommanderSmiths here with a spotlight deck tech of Ragost Deft Gastronaut.
One,
Kid can't even read.
two.
I just call him Lobster Guy, really. CommanderSmiths is a podcast that comes out weekly. We record every Monday or Tuesday night here on YouTube, and Wednesdays the audio comes out everywhere else. We've been doing this for almost 8 years, so subscribe if you like. Also, give a like if you like the deck. Let me know what cards you like in a Ragost deck as well, but I feel like this one's a lot of fun. All right, Ragost, Lobster Guy, red and a white for a 2/2. Lobster Citizen. Artifacts you control are food in addition to their other types and have the food stuff. Pay one, tap this, sacrifice the food. Ragost deals 3 damage to each opponent, which is brutal. It does a lot more work than you would think. And at the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, untap Ragost. All right. Pretty cool deck so far. No particular order. We have Boros Garrison. I like bounce lands in 2-color decks. And then we have Spirit Loop. And that's just put that on a Ragost, gain 9 life, have them untap, do it again and again. Great Furnace for that artifact land. We have Drum Bellower to untap Ragost in case you're. It's like a lifelink thing, but it works. Radiant Summit over a land, Mycosynth Wellspring to go get a basic land, and when it dies to Ragost, you go get another basic land. It's pretty cool in that regard. Goblin Welder, motherfucker. There we go. And then being able to swap back and forth all these artifacts, the ETB and die and all that kind of stuff. So it's nice. As for Sentinel, artifact that draws your cards. Lightning Greaves, artifact that protects you. Basic land, plains. Potion of Healing, artifact that comes into play, draws you a card. And then you sacrifice it and back and forth from the graveyard to draw more cards. That happens a lot in this deck, okay? And then we have Prophetic Prism. It is one of those artifacts that ETBs and draws you a card. Doing that same thing. Weapons manufacturing is awesome because whenever you have one of your non-token artifacts come into play, it makes a token artifact that when it dies, it deals 2 damage to any target. So it's just adding on to all that damage that's happening in the game. And it's not a cast trigger, so any artifact like Ancient Den, another artifact land coming into play, triggers that. Plateau, Mystic Forge, being able to cast colorless spells off the top of your library is really nice in this deck. You just roll as far as you can. Treasure Nabber steals your opponent's artifact rocks, essentially. And then you can sacrifice them to Lobster Guy, and you're good to go. Victory Chimes is cool. Artifact that untaps during each player's untap step, but taps for a colorless. So if you're untapping Ragost, untap Victory Chimes, you always have that 1 mana sitting around. Mirror Retriever, whenever it dies, return another target artifact card from graveyard to your hand. So just being able to kind of juggle artifacts back and forth from play to your hand into the graveyard and stuff like that. City on Fire, this triples the damage that you do to opponents. That is damage to opponent. Yeah. So instead of 3 damage, it's 9 damage. Instead of 1 damage, it's 3 damage for a lot of things. Ancient Tomb. We have Mind Stone for that colorless. Also, just being able to, come on, there we go. I don't have my autofocus on, so this is kind of frustrating. But gives you a colorless mana, Arcane Signet for a rock. Pia's Revolution. Whenever you're sacrificing non-token artifact to Ragost, it dies, but it'll come back to your hand unless somebody wants to take another 3 damage. So it just all adds up. Reckless Fireweaver. Whenever any artifact comes into play, it deals 1 damage to everything. So it adds up pretty quick. Drunk Diver. Whenever this dies, return an artifact in the graveyard to your hand. That juggling part. Clifftop Retreat. Plains. Sunshot Militia. You can tap 2 untapped artifacts you control to deal 1 damage to everybody, and then you sacrifice them, or it's just another way to get a lot more kind of damage in. Sundown Pass, Temple of Triumph, Scrap Trawler. Whenever Scrap Trawler or another artifact you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, return to your hand 1 artifact card from your graveyard with less converted mana cost. So just more of that juggling. The Battle of Bywater. A lot of my creatures are under 3 power, but this destroys all creatures with 3 or greater power. Create a food token for each creature you control. So generally, you're going to get like 2 to 4 food tokens out of this, destroy a bunch of stuff, and it works. Phyrexian Core to sacrifice artifacts to draw or gain life. Untap Ragost. It's mediocre. Workshop Assistant. If it dies, bring an artifact from the graveyard into play or into your hand. Spectator Seating. Nuka-Cola Vending Machine is awesome. Whenever any artifact you control dies, even those treasures, they are food from Ragost, so you get to create another tap treasure and just lets you kind of go off. Talisman of Conviction, just a rock. Shadow Spear is nice. You got that life link on Ragost, gain 9 life, untap them, all that jazz. Marvin is another version of Ragost. You gains those activated abilities. You just don't get to untap it, but you can just another way to sacrifice stuff. Mountain, Halaya, Guided by Light. But whenever Halaya or another creature and or artifact you control enters, gain 1 life. At the beginning of your end step, draw a card. You've gained 3 or more life this turn, which is fantastic. And then it has just pay that 1 white, have it come into play, gain a life, and then you can. Warp is a really cool mechanic. I like it a lot. Dispatch is in this deck. Exile target creature for 1 white. Planar Atlas. When an ETB is into play tapped, look at the top 4. Put a land in your hand. It does tap for a colorless. Astrid Peth. Whenever ETBs or attacks create a food token, whenever you sacrifice a clue or any artifact, Estrid Peth explores when Ragost is in play. So just being able to do that is pretty nice. Poo Poo UFO taps to put a land into play. If you're drawing a bunch of cards, you might as well get one of those more lands into play. Also, it's an artifact to sacrifice as the game goes along. Basilisk Collar, put that on Ragost. That's that life link, gain 9 life, keep on untapping it. Inventor's Fair. Cares about artifacts in play. You can gain 1 life, so that is at least 1 trigger. Also, you can pay for tap, go and search for any artifact, put it in your hand. Perfect in the deck. Prized Statue. ETBs or dies create a treasure. Just part of the juggling part. Prismatic Vista, Fabled Passage, Ingenious Artillerist. Whenever an artifact ETBs, 1 damage to each opponent. You got a lot of artifacts happening. Fireweaver, same thing. Mountain, Glittering Massive. Wefstock Ardent, pretty sweet for any other creature or artifact ETBing. 1 damage to each opponent. You see the theme that's going on, eh? Golden Egg, ETB, draw a card. Swiftfoot Boots for that protection. Spare Supplies to draw a card. Rustvale Bridge, artifact land. We got a Soul Ring for that ramp. Cavern Horde Dragon creates a bunch of treasures, more ramp. You like artifacts coming into play, so it's a great card here. Let's get that. Glaring Fleshraker, you're casting a lot of artifacts, which will create a lot of 1/1 token or 0/1 tokens. That'll deal 1 damage to everybody. You can also use those, sacrifice them to create mana, and that allows you to cast more things, more colorless spells. Mountain. Bubble Matrix. All damage dealt to creatures is reduced to 0. You don't attack a whole ton, and so you're sitting back, being able to block all day and still be able to do damage. I love this card in here. Taste Shar, Ancestor's Apostle. Whenever you cast a historic spell, which is an artifact or a legendary creature, bring a creature from your graveyard into play that has CMC 3 or less, which is all of those retriever cards. And so it just helps out moving things around. Mithril Coat for that protection. Instant Ramen, draw a card. Fetch. Ichor Wellspring, ETB, draw a card, or ETB or die, draw a card. Sleeper Dart, draw a card. Rugged Prairie. Flip Land, Shock Land, Ratchet, Field Medic. Pretty cool. So this comes into play. 2/4 life link. Whenever you gain life, you may convert Ratchet. When you do, return target artifact card with mana value less than or equal to the amount of life you gain this turn from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. So you sacrifice it. If you at least gain 2 life, then you can flip it, bring something back more than likely. And on that backside, 1/4 life link. Whenever 1 or more non-token artifacts you control are put into the graveyard from the battlefield, convert this ability, triggered only once each turn. So you're basically able to just flip it back and forth only once per turn, but it's pretty cool in that regard. Just kind of helps with the juggling. Um, we have a Boros Signet, so just a rock. Goblin Engineer, being able to sacrifice another artifact to bring something back, get something in your graveyard. It's pretty nice. Sammy, Wildcat Captain, is awesome. I love this card. But 6 mana, 4/4, double strike vigilance. Spells you cast have affinity for artifacts. That's all artifacts, and you just play everything for free, pretty much in this deck. It's pretty crazy. Plains, Walking Atlas, another one of those creatures that tap to put a land into play. Also just easy fodder later in the game. Arbaz Mur, whenever this or another non-token historic permanent enters the battlefield under your control, deals 1 damage to each opponent, and you gain 1 life. So Ragost or any artifact that you're casting works pretty well. Mountain, Lotus Petal, nice, cheap, free triggers. Plaza Heroes, Chandra's Incinerator, take those 3 damage to everybody and redirect that, or not redirect, but also use that to add 3 to a creature that you want to kill. Pretty great in this deck. Servo Schematic. When it ETBs or dies, create a 1/1 servo. Pretty nice in that regard. Witch's Clinic to give Ragost lifelink. Archivist of Ogma, some draw, also a little bit of life gain, so it works perfect in here. Treasure Vault, artifact land, creates more treasures if you need to get a lot of triggers. Nimble Right Schematic, ETBs or dies, create a 1/1 construct. Just more artifacts. You got a Plains, Gandalf, the white, 4/5. You may cast legends and artifacts as though they had flash, and then legendary permanents and or artifact entering the or leaving the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger. That ability triggers an additional time. So if you're drawing a card on the ETB, you're drawing 2. When they die, you get 2 tokens of whatever. When they come into play, you get to trigger the damage, twice. It adds up pretty quick. Great in here. Sensei's Divining Top, great for card selection, but also just recasting artifacts. The One Ring, one of the best draw cards in the game, but also if it gets to be too much life, you can sacrifice it with Ragost. Elish Norn is doubling all the triggers and taking away the ETB triggers from your opponents. Land, Command Tower, Wedding Invitation, ETB to draw a card. Alchemist Vial, ETB to draw a card. And War Room to draw a card. Hey, if you enjoyed this, give it a like. Hopefully you enjoy. So, all right, have a good one. Bye.